you are either getting to work on a great brand, getting to work in a great company, great culture, getting to learn something new, getting a new skill set, getting to grow in some way or the other, grab it.
What role do you think has MBA played in your journey as a brand manager and as a senior brand manager, right?
Because of MBA, you will get access to campus placements,
Yeah.
wherein the B school puts in all the might, and the
Yeah.
name of the B school really gets a lot of companies to the campus.
Absolutely. So how do you really decide that, okay, for this particular campaign, I want to spend this much? There are a lot of startups who don't invest in health trackers or media partners, right? How do you think they can track ROI of their campaigns?
Then there are some softer parameters that you can look out for, which has a lot to do with consumer listening or social listening, right? So on all your social media platforms, you will be putting it out.
How does your day look like as a brand manager at Nestle? Hey, hi Ishita, how are you?
I'm good, and thank you so much for the warm and enthusiastic welcome, Aakriti. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us. I'm very sure the audience will get a lot of insightful things from you. So tell the audience a little bit about you.
Sure. So, Aakriti, I have about 8 years of experience in brand management. Luckily, I got the opportunity to work across FMCG category.
Yeah.
So, I started my journey with AB InBev, where I worked on Corona and Who Garden for about
Wow.
2 years. I managed the super premium brand portfolio. Again, very cool in terms of the activations that we got to drive, the campaigns that we got to execute, the events that we got to, and of
Wow.
course, working on a beer brand is a privilege
Yeah.
on its own.
And you get like a lot of beer.
Of course, outside office, yes.
Yes.
So that was the start of my journey. I then moved to Nestle as an e-commerce activations manager.
Okay.
I worked on across e-commerce platforms, across the Nestle portfolio. Again, got an opportunity to launch some brands on e-commerce, manage visibility and search campaigns across e-commerce for the Nestle portfolio.
Nice.
Finally, I moved to Munch as a brand. I worked on Munch for about 2.5 years, did multiple campaigns, launched an SKU for the Munch portfolio. And then a few months back, I moved to Polo. So I'm currently working as a senior brand manager on Polo, like you mentioned.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I think it's such a nice journey. I think a lot of people would, kind of die to work with the brands that you're working with. So how has been this journey for you? Like how what it took you to, kind of reach the senior brand manager position at Polo? How was the journey? How did it pan out for you?
Sure. So, very interesting question. Honestly, sometimes the first answer that I gave, or the first thought that comes into my mind is it was all luck. You end up thinking that I was just lucky. But when you really think deep, I think there are two things that played a role, and I would love it if somebody can really imbibe it and inculcate it in their life. One is take every opportunity that comes your way. So even if it feels very abstract, ad hoc, unsure at that point in time, if you are either getting to work on a great brand, getting to work in a great company, great culture, getting to learn something new, getting a new skill set, getting to grow in some way or the other, grab it. Grab
Yeah.
that opportunity if it excites you, if it feels like, okay, this may be something that will add to me in some way or the other,
Yeah.
grab it. That is number one. I think I've never shied away from grabbing any opportunity,
Yeah.
and hence I moved from brand management to e-commerce back
Yeah,
to brand
absolutely.
management. That's one. Second, when you get that opportunity, utilize the hell out of it.
Yeah.
So make sure that whatever you have a plan for yourselves for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months, for the next 1 year. What is it that you are going to get out of that opportunity? How
Yeah.
are you going to maximize that opportunity?
Absolutely.
And I assure you, if you do these two things, there is nothing that can stop you from reaching great heights, no matter where it is, where you go.
Yeah.
But just do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, kind of really resonates with me. So I remember when I was in my graduation, it was like a normalish college, okay, not something fancy. So, I did like about 7 internships back then
Wow.
to just understand what interests me. I kind of grabbed every single opportunity that came my way,
Super.
and that kind of paved my way. For example, I did a volunteer work. Okay, so it kind of gave me a sense of purpose. So today I run an NGO.
Sure.
Okay, it's because I did that thing then that I kind of thought of opening an NGO now. Had I never done that, that volunteer work back then, I would have never had the thought of kind of opening an NGO and kind of serving people, right? So I think kind of totally resonate with that. My first stint with Noise was something I just grabbed. I was like, okay, I don't have a job right now, I'm going to grab this internship and give it my best. And those 4 months I like literally gave my best and kind of converted it into full-time role. So
Super.
kind of really resonate with that. So I want to understand, like, obviously our audience, a lot of them are aspiring brand managers, right? Or the people who've just started their journey and are doing influencer marketing, social media management. How can they rise up the ladder? That is something I'm very sure that they want to understand from you, because you work with some iconic brands, right? And it takes something to kind of reach there. What is that something for these people?
Akriti, like I said, there's no one right answer to this question. Okay, there's just so many different paths, and I've seen people have the most different paths reach great heights. So one is not to have this fixated mindset that there is only one way to do marketing, and
Absolutely.
that is as a brand manager.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not true. Just recently I was reading that Nykaa in itself has done away with the CMO role. There is a performance marketing manager, performance marketing lead, and there is somebody who leads creative along with the head of the company.
Yeah.
So the traditional roles of a marketing manager are something that may or may not exist, but even if they do, they are not the only means to do
Yeah.
marketing any longer.
Yeah.
There is so much meat that you can do in new age ad agencies, in consultancies, marketing consultancies,
Yeah.
that almost act as an extension of the marketing company,
Right.
to strategize and to guide you
Right.
on what you are doing. There is so much support within the company itself, right? There is a team for content, there is a team for media, there is a
Absolutely.
team for at ABI there was a team for events. So
Yeah.
experiential marketing was a big
Yeah.
part of Alcobev, and there is a special team which handles only event.
Yeah.
There is content studios which are being created now in-house by so many firms, and there
Yeah.
is so much opportunity to lead those content studios, and they're
Absolutely.
absolutely the
Yeah.
future. So there is no need to be fixated on the role of a brand manager anymore. There are so many different ways in
Yeah.
which you can do marketing.
Yeah.
And again, my suggestion would be to maximize and do what you are doing and what you are enjoying to the best of your ability. So
Yeah.
for example, if you are, and I as part of my brand management role, I work with so many agencies. It is so clear on a person at an agency who loves what they do and who
Yeah.
doesn't like what they do.
Yeah.
That's very clear. And as a brand manager, I would love to work with somebody who's so passionate about what they do, because they add ideas to the table, they
Yeah.
add value, they're
Absolutely.
proactive, they will add value to you as a brand manager.
Correct.
And to your marketing campaign.
Correct.
To somebody who's not able to do that.
Correct.
So it's very important to maximize where you are and what you are doing. And if you
Yeah.
love it, forget this idea of moving to brand management or moving to an FMCG.
Yeah.
There is no one right answer and no one right path anymore.
Absolutely. I think I really like that point that you said, that roles have evolved so much now that there might not be need for all traditional roles anymore, and you can do like so much. And I just absolutely resonate, and you kind of love that point. Like you said, love what you're doing right now, and maybe they can specialize in it.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, for example, someone's into content writing can kind of specialize into communications.
Absolutely.
And lead a team of people who can actually build like communication for a company, right?
Right.
So absolutely, I think love that point. So you've done your MBA from MDI, right? So one of the best colleges in India, very renowned. So what role do you think has MBA played in your journey as a brand manager and as a senior brand manager, right? What do you think has MBA done for you?
Right. So, MBA, I think the biggest thing it has done for me is given me my husband. So when I look back, I think that's the biggest
Yeah,
takeaway
what
from
more do
my
you need now?
that's the biggest takeaway from my MBA. But I think the one thing that it definitely gives you is opportunities. So because of MBA, you will get access to campus placements,
Yeah,
wherein the B school puts in all the might, and the
yeah,
name of the B school really gets a lot of companies to the campus.
absolutely.
But that's where it ends. That's what I used to tell my peers, and I tell uh, juniors that come to me for guidance or mentorship that that's where it ends. Now it is your responsibility to maximize and make the most out of an
Yeah,
MBA.
absolutely.
Not everybody goes to their dream company.
Yeah,
Please be very, very real. Even not everybody at an IIM Ahmedabad is
yeah,
going to their dream company. There'll be people who will be not very happy even at an IIM Ahmedabad,
yeah,
and there will be people who will be very happy, or they would have gotten into their dream job in a tier 2 B school as well.
yeah, absolutely.
Because it is all about how you maximize that experience.
Absolutely.
So it's important to have uh, an acumen to be able to grasp maximum out of it,
Right.
and to be able to make the most out of the opportunities that come your way. I
Right.
think that's the biggest thing that a B school gives you. Of course, there is a lot of essence of networking, communication, working in a team, and all of that comes your way as well. These are softer points, but an actual outcome, I think that's the biggest one.
Right. And do you think that MBA is like the path to, kind of getting these roles? Is MBA sufficient, or can people do without MBA also?
Sure. So, Aakriti, I've worked for two of the biggest FMCGs in the world, and I've also been, of course, exposed to my friends who are working in different other FMCGs, other big FMCGs. I would say at some companies there is a little bit of a preference towards an MBA candidate.
Right.
However, that is not the case in a lot of places, and it's decreasing more and more.
Yeah.
Things like what your marketing acumen is, how your strategic mindset is, how you network, how
Right.
you build your personal brand are becoming more and more
Yeah.
important for you to establish and showcase
Absolutely.
yourself
Absolutely.
as some as a leader or a marketing person to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is a need certainly anymore to be to think or to be limited by the need of an MBA, or to think that it is necessary for your growth.
Yeah.
There are multiple growth paths that you can carve out for yourself. Yes, MBA does give you a little bit of a stepping stone,
Yeah,
a little
absolutely.
bit
It
of an
makes it easier.
acceleration, but it comes at a price.
Yeah.
So
That is also
so
true.
there's a pro and con to it as well,
Yeah.
right? And you have to evaluate that if you spend the same amount of money in your upskilling in some other way, or spend some time in meteor roles in that duration, there is no saying that you will not reach the same positions
Absolutely.
in a lot of companies. So I don't think it's a limiting
Absolutely.
factor anymore.
No, absolutely. I think so. I have this friend. He is a director at a company right now. He's more than like 8, 9 years of experience now. I think probably 10. So he has not done MBA. He's just risen up the ladder
Sure.
through changing roles and evolving in roles. But what has really worked for him is that he's given his heart to whatever he's been doing. His delivered output, he's really made an impact and added value to the company he's working for, right? And that has given the people, the management, the confidence, and he can handle more, right? So I think we circle back to the same point that
Absolutely.
wherever you are, whether be in an MBA or in a company, if you're unable to utilize the opportunities that are given to you, there is no way that you can carve a path for yourself, and you can do it with or without any means like
Absolutely.
MBA, right?
Absolutely.
So you know so here's a very interesting question, okay? And I've been wanting to ask this to you for a very long time. How does your day look like as a brand manager at Nestle? Like, what is it that you do? So I'm sure whenever we think about being a brand manager, all these flashy things come to our mind, right? Doing campaigns, working with celebrities and whatnot, right? So what exactly does your day look like?
Sure. So, like you said, that I think 95% of the work that a brand manager does is not flashy. There's a lot of grind,
Yeah.
monotony, persistence, regularity that goes behind it. So there is, of course, that 5% which is flashy, but yeah, a lot of it is just a lot of grind and a lot of things that go, like you said, backstage and behind the scenes. So I think on any particular day, you start your day with something which I think is a holy grail for all brand managers and most of the people in any company, is to see the sales numbers from previous day.
Absolutely. Most
Okay,
important.
this is I think the number one activity that most uh, the people in the branding team or the marketing team or any most of the other teams would be doing, sales and marketing would
Absolutely.
be checking the sales numbers from yesterday. Did I do my daily quota of numbers, that 4%? Did I do that 4% of sales in that day or not? How closer I am to my month's target, and so on and so forth. And if there is something that you need to deep dive or action for that to ensure that you meet your target, because at the end of the day, brand managers are also business owners, right? You're P&L
Absolutely.
owners at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Everybody has a sales and a revenue target that you really need to meet. So that's number one. The second, I think it's just good to do is get the critical things out of the way. Have anything urgent, emails, responses that you need to do. Have everything critical out of the day. I think that really helps me smoothen out my day. I think the third thing that I do or try to do would be to create. So as a brand manager, there are three things that are critical for me to take care of. One is plan my activities and my calendar for my brand for the upcoming quarters. Okay, we usually in most companies we work on a +4 or a +6 cycle, wherein today I would know what I am going to execute on my brand from a trade lens, from a consumer lens, from a promotion lens, from an activation lens. Is it that I'm going to be doing for the next 4 months or the next 6 months? And that is something that takes up a lot of your time.
Absolutely.
To think about what is relevant for the brand to do. The next, and it's part of this, is your content and media. And why I say it separately, because it's again a very critical aspect of what the brand manager does, is aligning your media for the next quarter, if not more. Planning it out in terms of what is the saturation, what is the sufficiency that you need, what are the efficiencies that you need, if there are some new platforms that you want to explore, what is the content that will go on each of these platforms, is there a refresh, analyzing, evaluating it. That's the second part of it. I think the third part, which is the most critical thing for your brand to succeed, is data analysis. Brand managers, unfortunately, do so much of data analysis, be it internal sales, Nielsen, brand health tracks, HHP. You have to continuously evaluate these data points and see where the parameters for your brand are going, what the consumer is thinking, what the trade is thinking, and have
what your
to
competitors are doing.
Absolutely. Share of voice. So you'll get your media data as well. So you have to continuously see how your brand is moving in tandem with the market and be able to react spontaneously. So evaluation and analytics becomes a big part of it. Now, while all of this sounds very meaty, a lot of this cannot be done alone. So which brings me to my next part, is meetings. So unfortunately, a lot of time of your day is spent in meetings. And meetings will be with internal stakeholders to align the calendar, the content, the media, the hypotheses from your analysis, what is the actions that you want to take. First with your internal stakeholders at multiple levels, and then with your external stakeholders. So you will have internally, you will have sales, supply, factory, you will have your communication teams, media teams, you will have multiple teams that you work with internally, but you'll also have your agencies. You will have your content agency, you will have your media agency, maybe you're doing an influencer campaign. So there are multiple agencies, etc. I think this fills up most of your day. And one of the best things that I really enjoy in my current role is because this is a floor full of marketing folks. So there are so many impromptu discussions and conversations. There is somebody who's come out with a new campaign. They'll just come to you, just have a look, and you'll just impromptu get into like a half an hour very heated discussion on a campaign that you've just seen. So I think that is one of my favorite parts of the day. The peer-to-peer learning that we do
the
on the floor.
creativity.
I think it really brings out the creative side of you, just interacting with other marketers on the floor and engaging on sharing your thoughts on different campaigns. I think I just love that part of the day.
So now speaking of campaigns, right? So you have a very interesting day. Okay, obviously it might not be the same every day, but then
Sure.
again, the day looks very interesting, right? So I want to understand or know about a campaign that you did with Polo or with Munch, whatever, like any of your favorite campaigns that you kind of did, and how did you go about it, like and why it is your favorite, and how did you actually conceptualize it?
Sure. So I'll talk about a campaign for Munch, but I think before that, it's important to understand where campaign comes from.
Yeah.
It's not just a refresh that you have to necessarily do. Don't break something that's not broken.
Hmm.
So continue to do if something is doing well. There are media principles that come into place which require a refresh, but a absolutely new proposition or a campaign has to have a genesis somewhere. It has to start somewhere. For me, there are only two places where it can start. One is a consumer need. The consumer
Yeah.
is rejecting a product or giving you some feedback about the product
Absolutely.
that you need to absorb
Yeah.
and that you need to work on. Second is a business need,
Yeah.
right? There is something that is happening which is leading to some downfall in business.
Absolutely.
It could be short term, it could be long term. There is a need for more variety. There is a saturation happening, or whatever it is. It is a whatever the market scenario may be. It is either
Absolutely.
a business need or a consumer need. So one of these two has to be the genesis of the problem, and to understand what it is, you have to get into a lot of research.
Yeah.
So the data points that we mentioned earlier, be it brand health, be it Nielsen, be it internal sales, be it media data, external sales, any of these, or you get into a lot of research with the consumer,
Hmm.
understand, have one-on-ones, focus
Yeah.
group discussions with the consumers, quantitative analysis,
Absolutely.
to understand what the problem is and not go about solving the wrong problem.
Hmm.
That I see happens so
So many
often,
times. Yeah.
so often. So it's very, very important to take that time to really understand the problem.
Yeah.
Once you understand the problem, that is when you loop in a lot of your agencies. So brand manager truly doesn't do anything alone.
Hmm.
You have to work hand in hand with so many of your
Absolutely.
agencies. I think the communication agency, whoever your mainline or your you know content agency is one of the biggest or the
Hmm.
most important
Yeah.
stakeholders that any brand member has. You work with them in tandem to understand what is it that you need to solve. Do you need to solve at a product level?
Yeah.
Do you need to solve at a promotion level? Do you need
Right.
to solve communication? What is it that you need to solve is very, very
Absolutely.
important to
Yeah.
know. You shouldn't be solving communication when something that is being rejected has to do with your product.
Yeah.
It will not work.
Yeah.
So if you have to revamp a product, then there is a lot of work that happens with
Hmm.
insights team, with your factory team, and
Hmm.
so on and so forth.
Correct.
So you work with all of these stakeholders together and you build a new package. So you build a package in terms of, okay, whether did it need a product revamp? Okay, I have a new
Hmm.
product. Did it need a new packaging? Okay, I have a new packaging of my
Hmm.
product. Did it need a new communication? Okay, I have a new proposition which I'm
Yeah.
going to implement in a 360 manner. uh, was there a problem in distribution? So was there a placement problem?
Hmm. Correct.
Then I will put in a trade package
Hmm.
as well to it, so there
Yeah.
is incentive to push it to more
Absolutely.
stores, offline,
Yeah.
online, whatever that may be, right? So you have to be very clear, very ready with that package. And once you have that, that is when I would say the fun part of marketing comes in, which is the content and media of it.
Hmm.
So once you have all of this in place, of course there is a very robust go to market that you need to plan in terms of ensuring that the product goes to all the consumers at the right time, at the right moment,
Yeah.
in all the right placements.
Absolutely.
But as along with that, also communicate the new proposition that you have to the consumer, and that is where your content and media comes into play. So today there is so much opportunity and options that you have in content media, and you always have to make some choices.
Yeah.
Nobody has an unlimited bag of money, so you always have to make some choices on what is it that you're creating and where you are serving
Yeah.
to the consumer. This I think largely will cover your new proposition or brand launch or brand campaign, and bits and bits of this will be used in every
Yeah.
campaign.
Right. So, how did you implement it in your favorite campaign at Munch?
Right. So we recently relaunched. We launched a new proposition on Munch called Utha Munch Dikha Crunch. It was more of a communication revamp to target the, you know, new teenager or the evolving teenager, a very confident teenager, again led with a lot of research that we did. With that, we did a robust 360 media and content campaign around it. So there is, of course, there is an angle of TV, being a mass brand. There is there is a component of YouTube and Meta that you have to do. But not just that, we engaged with a lot of influencers. We created, in fact, a pre-launch phase wherein we engaged with Raftar. We created a rap music out of it, wherein we were able to integrate the copy of Utha Manch Dikha Crunch into that song, and we created a video with Raftar. So that got us a lot of engagement, and seeded this copy already into it before we launched the new proposition.
Yeah.
When we launched the new proposition, we also used influencers, we used meme marketing. We did a campaign with Rahul Dua to almost do a bit of a review of our film. I think it is one of a kind format that we used. These are a few things that we activated to ensure that we are reaching our consumer at the right time, at the right place, by creating unique content for each of those placements. Not looking at replicating that one TVC on every aspect, but creating specialized, personalized, specific content for each of those asset placements, I think is very, very critical.
Yeah.
And that's what we did, and it's doing really well.
Wow, yeah. I think even the tagline is very interesting. Utha Manch Dikha Crunch,
That's correct.
right? And how did you really come up with this? It's so engaging. I mean, I'm sure you have 10 options when you brainstorm, right?
Yeah.
How do you pick this one that, okay, this is the one that is going to go online?
Yeah. So I think, see, when you're doing a new campaign, of course, there's a lot of planning that you need to do. There is a lot of stakeholder management that you need to do. But the third thing that is most important is that you need to stay true to your brand. So before you do any proposition, you have to be very sure what your brand stands for, what my brand tonality is, what is it I'm trying to communicate, what is the key takeaway that I want the consumer to leave with.
Yeah.
If you have that these become guardrails for you to decide something or eliminate something. So of course, like we were discussing earlier, some very enthusiastic copywriter who possibly loves their job came up with a lot of options, including this. And using, of course, our sensibilities on what our teenager, our TG, the teenager is looking for. What is it that we want them to take away with? So we essentially want them to take away that there is a loud crunch. When you eat a munch, there is a loud crunch. And munch has stood for confidence for the longest time. So also have a takeaway of, when you pick up a munch, you show your confidence, and you with the loud crunch of munch, you're showing your confidence, and that's the takeaway. So you have to be very, very clear on what is the key message that you want to communicate to the consumer, and what is true to your brand and true to what you've been doing on the brand. If you put these guardrails in place, it just becomes easier to choose. Otherwise, it's always subjective.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's a very interesting approach, and I think काफी लोग मतलब ये सब करना भी चाहते हैं, right? And करते भी है. I think a lot of, I've seen marketing as a field grow, through the years, and like you said, it's evolved a lot, right? So for example, today brand managers are not just brand custodians but also business custodians, right? Wherein you have a daily sales target to achieve, right? It's no longer about just building a campaign and saying that, okay, we've done this, but it's also about measuring that ROI, analyzing that data, and kind of utilizing that data to the best of its power, right? So it's evolved a lot. How do you think have salaries evolved? Like, for example, someone, so let's say, so I get this question a lot, I get this asked a lot, like, Aakriti, how much salary should we expect? An aspiring assistant brand manager applying to a position, right? They would ask that, Aakriti, how much salary should I quote, right? And it's such a difficult question to answer because, honestly, it depends on a lot of variables. How do you think that people should approach this, like from a maybe junior level to like an associate level to, kind of a mid-senior to a senior level?
Right. So again, a very, very difficult question to answer. I'm no way an expert on this. I think any discussion around salary or hiring, I think it depends on three things. One is the what the candidate brings to the tables. You know
Hmm.
what their skill set is, maybe
Right.
what sometimes what their academic
Yeah.
qualifications are, what their experience is. That
Absolutely.
is one. The second is what the role entails.
Hmm.
You know, what is it that the role is expected to do? What
Hmm.
all do you manage? Five things? Do you manage four things? Is it do you manage a team? Is it an individual contributor? Do you manage five brands? What is
Hmm.
the scale of the brand that you
Hmm.
manage? Sometimes I've seen that two brands, you have five things, but the scale of the brand is 3x, it's 1x.
Hmm.
There will be different structures,
Yeah.
right? So that is the second thing. The third thing it really depends on, unfortunately, is the company.
Hmm.
Different companies fall very differently in terms of compa ratio. You know, they
Hmm.
have different ideologies. Some
Hmm.
companies all out are strong pairs, right? Some companies all out are not strong pairs. It also has to do with the strength of their brands or other strengths that they have. You know, they may have um, complementary policies that help the candidate or the employees, which hence they may not need to be
Hmm.
an extremely good pair. So
Yeah.
there are these, I think, three things that really make a lot of difference in finalizing what the salary might be. So one is skill set, the second is what the role is, and third is the company. My advice, first and foremost, is that don't think that there is one right answer. Be confident about your skill set, about what you bring to the table. If possible, try and benchmark within these three scenarios to the best of the possible ability
Hmm.
and see if you can get like a rough understanding or an answer, because that will give you the best direction on what you want to ask for,
Yeah.
right? That is number one. Two, I think there is you do get some benchmarks in terms of what see, a lot of these companies hire from B schools, right?
Yeah.
So tier one or tier two B schools, they hire, and the first role that you get in, usually when you get into any one of these companies, you will join as either an assistant brand manager directly, or you will do, say, maybe an average of a year of a sales rotation, and then you will join as an
Yeah.
assistant brand
Like a
manager.
management trainee.
Yeah, like a management trainee, so you will do like a year of rotation of sales, and you know, so that you have cross functional
Yeah.
exposure. Again, very, very critical, very important
Yeah.
for you to be able to perform better later. And about, say, let's say about a year and a half, you join as an assistant brand manager, right? Then you spend some time there, you spend two years there, you move on to a brand manager. You again spend 2 to 3 years there, you move on to a senior brand manager. Then there is usually marketing manager, category marketing managers, business
Yeah.
heads, is how it goes in all the different companies that I've been
Absolutely.
exposed to. Uh, for anyone, knowing what the hiring salary has been in tier one, tier two colleges is very easy.
Hmm.
These are public information, these are public
Yeah.
knowledge. So depending on where you are, how many years you are, you can definitely refer to that and see as a
Hmm.
benchmark
Hmm.
on where you are today. Usually in most FMCG companies, and this is like a public average that I was able to call out, uh, an average increment is about 8 to 15%. So you put an average increment and you will be very easily be able to calculate if you're not able to actually get a benchmark on where your peers are.
Hmm.
That will give you a fair idea on what to ask for. And the third thing is just be confident. You know, there will always be recruiters and companies trying to put you down, trying to tell you that, you know, no, we don't pay that much, you know, we only have this much budget. Be confident on your skill set. You may lose an opportunity on two. That is a call that you need to take.
Yeah.
But be confident that if I'm asking for something, that I am worth it, and try to showcase that value in your interview process,
Yeah.
so that they are also forced to think and to be able to offer you what you want.
Absolutely, I think. And do you feel like, so these are very well put points. Okay, firstly, I think that answers like a lot of questions for a lot of people, right? That how they can, kind of benchmark their own skill set with the role that is being offered to the scale of the company that they worked for previously and for the companies that they're going to work next, right? So definitely. But do you feel that people should prefer roles over salary? like like how is it? Like, for example, I know people who have like years of experience, right? Now they obviously wouldn't prefer roles. They would probably see the salary growth that, that a company is providing them
Mm.
for the early years,
Mm.
right? Do you think people should focus on the role first and then the salary? And even if the role is great, they just kind of compromising a little bit on salary is doable even if their skill set is higher? Like, do you think that is the case, or they should like stick to what they feel they deserve, they should get?
Right. So again, Akriti, you're just full of tricky questions today. Uh, Again, I don't think there's a right answer. It really depends on what your situation is. If you are in the need of, that financial stability and you need a certain amount of money to for your XYZ needs, I don't think you should deprioritize that. Right. If you are not you don't feel valued, or if you don't feel like that job is able to fulfill your financial commitments, if not your desires but your needs, you will not be able to contribute to your job fully.
Hmm.
So I totally believe that you should be content with what you're getting, right?
Hmm.
So if you're not able to make peace with what you're getting, and if you're joining on a bitter note, and you're constantly feeling undervalued, you will not be able to contribute, even if it's a great role, it's a meaty role, and you think that
Yeah,
it will add to your
absolutely.
skill set, but you will not be able to make the most out of it. So don't do something that feels very wrong to you. Don't
Hmm.
go for it if it feels very wrong to you. Yes, you're right that in the beginning, you have to build your foundation, right? I don't say this about anything. I think everything can be learned, but I truly believe that marketing is a bit of rocket science. It not because not everybody can learn it. Everybody can absolutely learn it. Everybody can be an expert at it, but just because it takes time and it
Hmm.
takes experience.
Yeah.
You cannot learn marketing by reading books
Hmm.
or by theoretical knowledge. You
Yeah.
just can't. You have to experience on the job campaigns, on the job failures, on the job learnings for you to be able to grow as a marketer. So that's
Yeah.
very, very important, especially in the initial years. uh, and hence, if you feel that you have the ability to be able to maybe compromise a little bit on your salary to be able to build that foundation more strongly, maybe you got like a really good brand to work with, a really good company to work with, getting to lead a team very quickly, getting to do some meaty work, launch a campaign end to end, even if it stretches money is not the only thing. There's also time, your time, right? Sometimes some jobs demand a lot more time and commitment from you than other jobs, but if you feel that that is adding to you in terms of what you're learning and
Hmm.
what you will be able to build into your foundation, it will definitely help you grow better and have be able to be a more confident marketer later
Right.
on. So
So
why not?
yeah, I think more like designers, right? They build a portfolio, and more like anything today,
Yeah,
right? Like
absolutely.
even content writers have portfolio, designers have portfolio, video editors have portfolio to show the work that they've done in order to attract like high paying clients or
Right.
bigger clients. Same with agencies, the kind of portfolio they build, the kind of clients they attract. I think it's the same with marketers. The
Absolutely.
experience and the work they've done previously with the brands, it determines what work they'll do in the future. So yes, absolutely, you're right there. So Ishita, we've talked about a campaign, right? Now how do you really decide on a budget for a campaign? So like, for example, how do you know that this much needs to be spent, right? And it's a very legit question, because sometimes the things we do for brand marketing, right, they might be for awareness. You cannot really measure the impact of it on like the performance of a brand, for example, or performance of sales immediately, because it takes time for it to
Sure.
kind of register into the minds of the consumer. So whatever you do today might yield you results like about a year from now, for example, just.
Sure.
So how do you really decide that, okay, for this particular campaign I want to spend this much? So like, how do you go about that?
So I think, Akriti, the one stakeholder that we've not discussed so far is the finance team. Okay, so there is a very important, very powerful team at every company, which manages I wouldn't say manages, but is responsible for keeping us in line.
Hmm.
Responsible for keeping brand managers in line.
Yeah.
Ensuring that we don't fulfill all our wishes and spend all the money that we don't even have. So there is some money that is allocated to all the brands,
Hmm.
in any company, I'm sure, be it on a monthly, quarterly, or an annual basis. So you will always have a plan 1 year in advance on what are the big buckets that you want to spend your money on,
Right.
right? But when it comes to a certain campaign, a specific campaign, it actually goes both ways. There will be some bucket of money. However, usually you don't start from there. You start from whom do you want to reach, how do you want to reach them,
Yeah.
and where all do you want to reach them.
Yeah.
And then you see, okay, how much does that cost, and then you try and reach a midpoint to it. So there will be, of course, with so much research now gone behind it, there are benchmarks that you have to achieve sufficiency. So there is a certain universe of audience that you have, a targetable universe of audience that you have, be it TV or be it digital. What is the minimum reach that you need to
Hmm.
achieve on
Hmm.
those, right? What is the minimum frequency that you need to achieve on that
Yeah.
audience to be able to distill your message and to be able to connect, for them to connect and recall your message.
Right.
So there is a certain frequency that you need to serve them with. Now with that, you will also have what are the platforms that you need, what are the best platforms for you to
Yeah.
really bullseye reach your TG,
Yeah.
and have the least amount of pilferage.
Absolutely.
With that, with the comms and the media team, you will have amount that you need to spend at each of these platforms to reach this sufficiency. Each platform that you add usually is a frequency driver.
Yeah.
It will build on certain reach. So if you're doing TV, usually all the mediums that you add on to it will actually add some level of frequency, be it out of home, be it digital, be it Spotify or something, OTT, will all add to it. So you will try to reach a midpoint based on the monies that you have and your must do's in terms of your media and communication. So there will be, say for a mass brand, if you have that threshold amount of money, TV will be your must do.
Yeah.
Some amount of digital for a reach, and not reach, but a frequency builder will be your must do.
Yeah.
Right? And then you will try and see, depending on the monies that you have, how much more frequency and how much more niche targeting can you really afford to do. And that's how you eventually arrive at an budget for a campaign. It will never be a singular decision making. That is not possible. It's a continuous iterative process that goes on for at least a month or two.
So yeah, interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And so campaign ban gaya, ठीक है, budget spend हो गया.
Right.
But how do you really measure the ROI of a campaign? Like how do you measure the impact of it on your brand, right? Because today, like you said, you're also a growth custodian, right? You're
Right.
also a business custodian. How do you ensure that your business grows through these campaigns? What are the concrete measures that you actively seek out, to see that, okay, my campaigns are working, brand is moving forward?
Right. So see, of course, nobody lets you get away without ROI, right? So every campaign that you do, there are extensive evals that you do to ensure that you are learning from every campaign and you're incorporating learnings subsequently. Now today there is a big angle of performance marketing, with
Yeah,
e-commerce
yeah,
and
absolutely.
D2C growing. There is a big angle of performance marketing, which let's keep separate for now, right? Because that's it's very, very intense, very extensive on its own. If we talk about just about marketing communication, if there is a new film or a new launch or a new proposition that you're looking to launch, I think there are two things that tell you how it is doing. The first thing is there will be some kind of a performance metric that you will get from the media platform that you are serving it at. So, be it Meta, be it YouTube, be it Google, there are these brand lift studies that you do, and you will get a sense of a comparison between people who've seen it, not seen it. Has there been any movement in terms of the imagery parameters for the brand? So there is something that the media partner gives you.
Okay.
If you have a brand health track, there will be something that a brand health track will also give you.
Okay.
So in terms of, they evaluate your film. So they will show it to a few people and they will ask whether you've seen it or not. And then there is a difference that is created in people who have seen the film and not seen the film, and evaluated on whether any imagery parameters for your brand has been improved or not. So whether people who have seen the film, are they liking your brand more, have they more loyalty towards your brand, have they eaten your brand more, so things like that are actually tracked with brand health tracks that most companies have in place with these big agencies, that give you a good sense of how the content is resonating with the consumer. You know,
Hmm.
whether the consumer is even remembering the content, is liking the content, is it striking an emotional chord with the content, is it changing how the consumer feels about your brand.
Hmm.
That will tell you a lot about the content, you know,
Hmm.
how it is performing. The real test, of course, comes with sales matrix. So it doesn't take that long. Of course, it won't be instantaneous, but within a month or two, you should be able to garner
Hmm.
some response in terms of, is it helping with my offtake? Is it helping with my sales? Is it helping with repeats? Is
Hmm.
it helping create better market share? Some early indicators of things going in the right direction are also very, very encouraging and very, very
Hmm.
positive. If there is something of a degrowth happening, is the
Right.
degrowth arrested? Has it started now moving in a positive direction? So you have to really watch out for those early indicators when it comes to business matrix, and even track something as granular as, are more offtakes happening at your
Right.
weighted shops.
Yeah.
Those kind of things can actually be tracked and give you a very good sense of how your marketing campaign is performing early on.
Right, right. Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. How do you think new brand managers can do this who don't have access to, for example, trackers, right? There are a lot of startups who don't invest in, health trackers or media partners, right? How do you think they can track the ROI of their campaigns?
Right. So, see, even if you don't have a tracker in place, if you've invested a lot of money into creating a new film, right? Film creation is never cheap, usually.
Hmm.
Um, you can do a dipstick. So, you can always test just the film. You can
Hmm.
always show just the film and see whether that is moving any parameters for you. So, even
Hmm.
if you don't have a continuous track, you can always do a research for just the film,
Hmm.
depending on whether you want to or not. But ideally, you should.
Hmm.
If not that, then there are some softer parameters that you can look out for, which has a lot to do with consumer listening or social listening, right? So on
Hmm.
all your social media platforms, you will be putting it out. See the engagement on your content, see the comments on your content. Are people coming more and more to your page?
Hmm.
Maybe as part of your campaign, you've done some influencer collaborations or
Hmm.
meme collaborations, or some executions on other partner
Right.
platforms. See how the engagement is going there. You will always be doing some amount of media, right? There will not usually not be an all organic campaign, right, by any company. So if you're doing a media campaign, especially in digital, you get a roster data, right?
Hmm.
You get CTRs, VTRs, you get a host of data that you can track, and you can
Right.
see whether you're doing better or not
Right.
versus benchmark. So these are a few things that can easily tell you on, give you a sense of how your campaign is performing without having BHT matrix in place
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, Ishita, what do you think are the essential top skills that are required for a brand manager? Right, a lot of our audience, I'm very sure, want to become like brand managers. So, what do you think they should have like as their skill set?
A brand manager is like any other job, right? So it's you go to work, you do your work, you have a boss, you have stakeholders. So it's pretty much like any other job, right? What you're driving, your targets might be different, the work that you're doing might be different, but it's still a job. So for me, I think before moving on to functional attributes, it's important for you to have certain skill sets which I would assume are relevant for any job, but definitely for a brand manager. I think one is resilience, okay, because there is so much new, there is so much dynamism, and there is so much clutter today. You have to be resilient, you have to continue to learn, you have to be okay with falling, failing, continue to improve, continue to
Yeah,
grow. So you have to be
absolutely.
very, very persistent and resilient. And this is true for any job, but definitely today's brand manager needs to have a very thick skin. Okay. So that I think for me is number one. Two, similarly, you need to have a lot of intellectual curiosity. If you're not continuously asking questions, you're not continuously trying to understand what new technologies are there, what new capabilities are there, how can I do better performance marketing, how can I improve the efficacy of my media content, solve a consumer problem better. If you're not continuously asking that, then somebody will beat you to it.
Yeah.
So being intellectually curious at all points in time, I think is a great skill to have as a brand
Yeah.
manager. I think the third skill is stakeholder management.
Mhm.
Brand manager does not do anything alone. uh, at any point in time, you are working with at least 3 4 other stakeholders to
Yeah.
drive any project home, be it internal, external,
Yeah.
at different levels within the company. So you are always working with a host of stakeholders, and hence stakeholder management becomes very, very important.
Yeah.
These three, I think, from a behavioral standpoint, are critical for a brand manager to have. uh, Functionally, I would say analytical skills are very, very crucial,
Yeah.
because like we already established that there is a host of data points. There is no dearth of data today, so no brand manager can say that I don't have data. That will not happen. They will usually be overloaded with different data points. They will have cuts at geography, at TG, at gender, demography, all possible demographic cuts you will have at multiple sources of
Yeah.
truth. Joining all those dots together is analytical thinking, and then that leads to adding your sense of strategy to it, creating a strategy out of adding those dots together, joining those dots together, I think, is the most crucial skill set that you can have from a functional standpoint as a marketing manager.
Absolutely. I think whenever, so the first point that you mentioned, whenever you do a campaign, right, and both of us can relate to it, not every campaign does well, right? And you cannot get demotivated by it.
Sure.
Obviously, you'll be questioned by the management that why did this not happen, or and you'll be disappointed yourself that okay, we wanted to do this, but it didn't happen, right? What are learning? So I think that learning first approach should be is the first point that you mentioned, that you need to have like that thick skin, and you need to be willing to learn and improve whatever you're doing, along with absolutely the other things that you mentioned, like data, right?
Right.
So absolutely. So and through these 8 years, right, what have been your top 3 learnings being in marketing?
Top three learnings. Okay. Well, it's truly difficult to distill it down to top three learnings. I think, let me give it a shot. I think it would be one, to be focused on a lot of data driven decision making. I know we already discussed that not every company has the similar abundance of data,
Yeah.
but there will be data points. Every
Absolutely.
company will have some or the other data points that you can rely on. The only thing that I'm cautioning against is to rely on your gut while making a decision for the consumer. You as brand custodians are usually much closer to the brand, much closer to the brand proposition. uh, you may not always be the right person. Even if you are the consumer for your product, you may not be the right person to speak as a consumer for the product.
Yeah.
So even if it is a few FGDs, get a sense from the consumer and try and drive decision making based on some backing,
Absolutely.
at least till you have maybe 15 years or 20
Yeah.
years of solid marketing experience, that you can actually rely on your gut. But as much as possible, try to have some data to back it.
Yeah.
It's number one. I think second, in today's day and age, there is so much change happening, especially in digital media. There was a time, even for me, 7 years ago, when we talked about digital media, it was largely about, say, maybe YouTube or Meta,
Yeah.
right? Today, that's not digital media at all. Even on YouTube and Meta, there is YouTube Shorts, there in IG, there are so many placements. Then you will have so many different other digital mediums. So you will have YouTube, CTV, you will have your OTT apps, you will have, if you're targeting a passion point, you will have specific apps, specific targeting for gaming, for music, for sports. And the digital world is just exploding like anything. You're spoiled for choice. So you have to constantly adapt and not be limited to your mediums of choice as you were before. You have to constantly
Right.
adapt to what is best
Absolutely.
for the brand.
Absolutely.
I think the third one that I've always seen, and I worked in a category like chocolates, and I worked in a category like beer. You see that there are brands which have different USPs. So there are brands which focus on value. There
Yeah.
are brands which have different, maybe product benefits that they portray. But I've seen that if you are a good storyteller as a brand, if you really connect with the consumer on an emotional level, they will have preference for your brand
Yeah.
and higher consideration for your brand.
Absolutely.
So do not underestimate the power of strong storytelling for your brand that resonates with the consumer, because consumer is not always rational. You know, if they connect with your brand on a deeper level, they will choose your brand in every scenario.
Absolutely. Very
So
true.
yeah, these I think to be kept in mind, and many more learnings for me, I'm sure, in future as well.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. I think very well put. All the 3 points absolutely, are bang on, especially the storytelling bit, because I myself feel that, there's so many brands out there, right? How do you create your mark is when you actually connect with the brand. We see so many iconic ads in the past, like washing powder Nirma and stuff like that. It's just so iconic because there's a genuine connect with the consumer. There's a story, there's a catchy jingle to it. There's just so much to it, and so much effort has been put into it that we still remember it as a brand campaign, right? So definitely. So thank you so much, Ishita, for coming today. I think our audience will have like a lot of insightful things to take away from this conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aakriti. It was a pleasure to be here, and I hope this truly helps whoever is listening, and I'm able to add some value to them. So thank you so much
Absolutely.
for having me here.
Absolutely. So, guys, I hope you got like a lot of value from this insightful conversation. So, stay tuned for all the upcoming episodes and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you then.